Sheriff Jim Hammond, Chief of Police David Roddy, the Register of Deeds here in Hamilton County, Marc Gravitt, and the county attorney, Reuben Taylor, all look a little pale. They look a little white, a little wan, and it's time for some sunshine. It's time for them to get a tan, a T-A-N, tan. They need to get, I suggest, David Toulis, a tan. And a tan is transportation administrative notice. Now, I hope this project is coming slightly into your notice here on the David Toulis Show, and I do thank you for joining me. It is a project of long standing that was conceived in late last year, and I worked on creating an analysis, a report, if you will, of the relationship between the people and the law. There's a particular law that I did a deep study of, and that's Title 55 of the Tennessee Code. And I find that this law applies to a limited group of people, not everybody. And yet, the law is applied to everybody promiscuously, right? Promiscuously, whorishly, if you will, without discrimination and without distinction, though the law requires discrimination. The officer, the deputy, or the city police officer make a distinction between people who are using the roads in commerce and those who are not. So the officials are pale and very white looking, and they look unhealthy. They simply look unhealthy, and there are veins protruding slightly in their necks as they consider what I am proposing to them, all of them. And that here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, and that is that the law in that title in the Tennessee Code is a foot wide, whereas, and in contradiction to, they are enforcing it as if it were 8 yards wide, and they're enforcing the law not just on the 20% of people on the road who are commercial operators like truckers and cabbies and ambulance drivers and wrecker services and Uber drivers and the like, but non-commercial, in fact, private users whose rights are being infringed upon, I'm suggesting, and affected. And so these officials, I'd say starting with Marc Gravitt, who's now come into my notice here on the David Toulis Show at 92.7 FM, especially Marc Gravitt, looking very, very pale. Now, in his defense, there has come Reuben Taylor, the county attorney, who sent me a letter yesterday, I'll say remarkably fine service, refusing to enter my notice, which is done on your behalf. And we'll hear a little bit more about that later today on your behalf, because I'm using the notice to give word about the scope of the law, to give word. And here's the sum of the letter from Reuben Taylor. Now, the sum of the letter is that we are not going to make a record of this affidavit and the attached TAN, right? The TAN is Transportation Administrative Notice. And I want officials and officers in Chattanooga and across the state to get a tan, to get a little bit, a healthier glow, a roseate glow on their faces and their arms and maybe their upper bodies if they take off their armor plate perhaps and bask a bit, because TAN makes a distinction that they, by policy, and with the support of an activist judiciary, enforce illegally. And let me just gently suggest this, unjustly, with downstream damages in the millions of dollars, affecting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people across the state, and for sure tens of thousands of people here in Hamilton County, and within the sound of my voice here on the David Toulis Show, where we love our neighbors and buy local, where you can hear us anytime. Just get Next Radio, download Next Radio on your phone, and just type in Nooga. Just type in the word Nooga, and you can hear my show live on the real signal on your phone, not through streaming, but the actual signal on your phone, the FCC regulated signal. on your phone, and it streams if somehow you get out of reach of our signal. It will stream the show live or record live on Facebook and YouTube. And so I want the officials to get a tan, but guess what? I'm meeting resistance. Now, I'm afraid that next week I'll be reporting that I'm meeting indifference on my project on your behalf, carving out an area of liberty that has been ignored, which most people don't realize that they're missing, that they've been denied. And an oppression which is so familiar, so absolutely familiar, that no one sees it that way. No one can even analyze the loss. And that it's almost like theft by conversion, right? When you're a victim of theft by conversion, someone has converted something that belongs to you to their use, and you just don't realize it, right? That's what fraud is. That is what when you have someone in your office who's stealing from you does, converting incoming checks, let's say, to her own name and depositing it in her personal account. Reuben Taylor says that the notice, which I'm attempting through Marc Gravitt, the Register of Deeds in the county, is not of the legal import that are allowed to be accepted and recorded in the public office. Now, the good service was I got this email from him moments after he had walked out of a county commission meeting yesterday, and Marc Gravitt's email to him was, well, here's David Toulis a second time asking to have and willing to pay to have a legal document recorded in an office whose sole duty, as we're going to hear about, his sole duty is to record a myriad variety of legal documents of purely corporate, private, and personal interest. And here in my affidavit, which is one page crammed with details about who has received this notice, and then the actual notice itself, which is 20 pages, that has not just a private estate interest, right? It's not just about an heirship or something pertaining to one's business dealings, right? It's well beyond that. It is a matter of public import, and Reuben Taylor is telling you that no, we are not going to record a document which affects your property rights, and it may not have boundary lines like a deed of trust, no, but makes a boundary line clear. It highlights brightly the bright light of the investigative journalist, shining the light on the limit of the law and suggesting on your behalf and on behalf of my reader at Nuganomics.com that there has been a moved boundary. A boundary has been moved. And guess what? The people, especially the poor, especially the weak, and especially the ignorant, and the orphan and the widow, whom the Bible declares are always to deserve special protection for them, and the alien and the stranger. And in the category of alien and stranger, I put, since I have read and been deeply moved by Joel McDermott's book, The Problem of Slavery in Christian America, I would classify the African American as among the aliens and strangers in the land. The newer aliens and strangers are from Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and other points south of the border. They're newer aliens, but the older class of aliens are still here, though many of them are very well spoken, very articulate people, and they're highly elevated, highly integrated into American culture and society. They don't act like aliens at all. They don't have any signs of weakness or limitation. Basically, Reuben Taylor says in the second paragraph of his letter to me, these documents have no legal effect, and your expressed desire to have them recorded in order to put others, quote, on notice, quote, is not a permitted reason for recording same and allowing them to occupy space within the public records of Hamilton County. Well, I just had to laugh when I read. I'm sorry. I laughed from number one, because this is all digital. Since the late 1960s, all the recordings done in the Register of Deeds office are not in books, even though, and here I'm holding up my copy of the Tennessee Code Annotated, a very fat and heavy book. As you can see, it's marked many times with yellow sticky notes because I read the Tennessee Code in the bathroom. That's what I do for entertainment. You know, maybe maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm kind of a bore, but I do read Gibson Suits and Chancery in the bathroom. I do read Tennessee Code Annotated sometimes on the Sunday afternoon. But in this book, which I have here, the duties of the register are to record record all kinds of things, and that makes mention of book. Okay, book, and the books are supposed to be well bound. And this is just an antiquated, outdated statute, because the technology has surpassed the binding of book industry, and we now have digital files. So everything's digital. So why is Mr. Taylor, the county attorney, who's long been on the county payroll as the barrister of record, why is he concerned about the occupied space within the public records? Since when is space an issue when we have hard drives? That's point one. I would 800-8949, 800-8949 is the studio line to call me. And, you can change the topic. I'm happy to talk with you, my listener. As Marie Mott says, and we'll tell you tomorrow at 11 o'clock on Know Your Rights Friday, to chop it up, right? Chop it up with Marie. And you can do the same with David Toulis, your host here on the David Toulis Show in Chattanooga, here in our wonderful, wonderful studio in the town of East Riz. Basically, he says these documents have no legal effect. Well, isn't that funny? The legal document created in the past 25 years in Chattanooga that has perhaps the most legal effect of any document, I would like to suggest, in the past 25 years here, is now been told by an attorney who has looked at it. He has looked at it. It has no legal effect. And your expressed desire to have them recorded in order to put others, quote, on notice is not a permitted reason. Well, I'm just laughing because this office of Register of Deed is all about putting people on notice, all about putting people sort of under the claim of notice. And notice is a terrific doctrine, by the way. 800-8949, 800-8949. Nuganomics.com is our sponsor. And you can follow my wonderful and increasingly hilarious adventures on helping white-looking, pale-looking officials getting a tan. That's what we're all about, getting them to have a tan. They're so pale. Time to get a tan. The bright light transportation administrative notice is the journalist bright light exposing the limits of the law and thereby the maladministration of the statute. There's a stewardship interest that sheriff's deputies, Jim Hammond, David Roddy, Police Department, Chattanooga, and others have. They have a stewardship interest in these laws, right? They're called law enforcement people. And yet it's funny, they won't talk about law at all. They just won't talk about it. When I met with Jim Hammond on the March the 1st and asked about his understanding of the law, he refused to discuss it. Well, I'm not sure why, but the Register of Deeds office records corporate charters, and he has many documents, of course, pertaining to real estate, deeds of trust, scriveners' affidavits. How about that? Fixture deeds of trusts, grants. There are all kinds of affidavits. One, for example, the creation of a trust by a man named Jeffrey D. Carmichael. And it establishes a trust called the Carmichael Investment Services Trust, UAD, which I think means under authorizing date 12/28/2017, launched by a $5,000 check. And that was recorded the 1st of January. And there's another one, a man named Robert J. Williams Jr. swears that he is not the same Robert J. Williams Jr. as targeted by a tax lien in the amount of $6,382.18. Pointing out that, well, there's a difference in Social Security numbers here, so that's not me, okay? So here we have a public document. It's a document giving notice, right? Giving notice to people that once you enter it into the record, and then you can make a copy of that and say, look, I've entered this in the public record. Please look at this document. I'm not the Robert J. Williams Jr. in the claim, okay? I'm a different person. An innocent party just happened to have the same name. And in Marc Gravitt's office, there are affidavits of estoppel, affidavits of indemnity, of identity, of heirship, of inheritance, affidavits of lost assignment of power of attorney. I mean, it goes on and on. The list on the computer is extensive. And when I looked under the kinds of notices that Marc Gravitt and Reuben Taylor allow, again, really kind of narrow interest, right? Narrow, very personal, private interest dealing with maybe a family and a bank, right? If there is a claim made for non-payment of the debt, right? A mortgage, let's say, late payment for a mortgage, a company will enter into the record this notice for some person, hopefully will see the notice. And so in a way, when the Register of Deeds records something, it's pretty private if you think about it, because you can't see these records online. I see them because I went down to Marc Gravitt's office and had a gentleman named Chandler helping me to look at the system online. Otherwise, I'd have to pay a subscription to see what the notices were. So, a lot of good it does to have a notice with Marc Gravitt. You have to pay to see the notice. So, notice should be something that is indeed broad, right? Broad notice. But there are notices, again, of narrow interest dealing with joint venture agreements, copies of court filings for absolute divorce, notice of default in a foreclosure sale. There's one, I saw one notice that was recorded in 1970 from a woman named Mrs. Goodman. She graduated November the 1st of 1948 from John Allen Agee Memorial School in Mobile, Alabama. So that's the kind of thing that you have in the record. And here, Mr. County Attorney Ruben Taylor is concerned that, well, my 20 pages is going to take up some room there, right? Take up some room. There's one indemnity affidavit. You know what indemnity is? Well, indemnity is this. You agree to come to chop down 2 trees in my yard, and to make sure that if you're injured in this activity, that I'm not personally liable for all of your care. We're live on Facebook, of course, and YouTube. That you sign this document that says you absorb all the peril and the injury if there is an injury in God's providence. This work is done by you as an expert, and that you promise to hold me guiltless and faultless and not liable. So that's what indemnity is. One affidavit that I looked at this morning was of a man named Sarath Babu Gangavarapu, and he indemnifies Title Guarantee and Trust Company in Chattanooga and a second title insurance company here in town for claims that might arise from an oil and gas lease recorded elsewhere in the registrar's office. And that might be because, well, you have buried oil tanks, right? Buried gas tanks. And so there's a need of making sure that some parties who are coming into the picture are not suddenly saddled with an expense. Okay, so here we have this Ruben Taylor letter telling me that a document that is all about you, all about your rights, all about the changing of the landmark. That is what has happened. Right? You in my researches are to be understood as the victim. You, my listener here on the David Tula Show, the victim of what is a deep state in Tennessee. We have a deep state in Tennessee, and all the interests work together. And I want to say right here, I have no intention of ever committing suicide. Okay? I'm a very happy man to be alive, and I thank God for giving me a life. And I will not do anything to somehow kill myself, right? Because that's what happens when people suddenly touch some raw tendril that has finds itself exposed of this operation on the national level, right? The people who exposed, for example, that the CIA was involved in the drug trade in Nicaragua. That journalist was found dead by suicide, 2 bullets to the head. So things like that happen. But I'm not afraid of things like that. I'm really not, because people in Tennessee are volunteers. There is a strong gospel interest in Chattanooga and Helena County, and I just want you to know that I don't. People warn me. It's funny. People warn me about things like that. They say things like, "Well, you're taking your life into your own hands by talking about some of these things." I always just dismiss that. I'm not afraid of that. There was a Confederate general, Stonewall Jackson, who was a devout Christian, and he said, "I'm as comfortable in my saddle as bullets were whizzing past him, right? Whizzing through his whiskers, putting a hole in his cuff of his shirt. I'm as comfortable in battle as in my bed." And he knew that was true because God numbers a man's days, and he was confident that on his last day, that would be God's decision for it. And there's nothing he could do to alter that. And so he was a man of great confidence. So a man who loves God and fears God is always more confident than a man who doesn't, right? A man who is confident in God, or a woman, right, is not going to live in fear. And the fear of men is a snare. It is a great, great snare. I ask God to help me to not live in fear of men and to do always the right thing, to say the right thing, to do the right thing. Try to help you, my listeners. I'm your servant. You are my object of care. David Tool listening to radio, and the number 900 is 800-8949, 800-8949. Give me a call. I've got a little time to chat with you. Do call me, and we shall talk. 3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Georgia State Parks are doing their part in giving evacuees a place to stay. Campsites at Cloudland Canyon are available at no charge for anyone fleeing the storms. Park rangers say there are no water or electrical hookups at the moment, but you're free to set up camp to escape the storm. Chattanooga police trying to track down an arsonist who set fire to a church. Piney Woods Baptist Church on East 52nd Street was set ablaze early last week. Chattanooga Fire spokesman Bruce Garner tells the press the fire investigator is quite confident that this was arson. The investigation is ongoing. A $5,000 reward is up for info, leading to an arrest. And Georgia Governor Nathan Deal has issued a state of emergency for all 159 counties in Georgia. The governor in a statement said the state is mobilizing all available resources to ensure public safety ahead of Hurricane Florence. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McLarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McClarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McClarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Keon Rose and Nick LaFew this Friday night with the Amco Transmission and Total Car Care High School Football Game of the Week. This Friday night's the Battle of the Battlefield Parkway between Ringgold and Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. But join me, Sam Jordan, for the 101 Personal Training Countdown to Kickoff beginning at 7:05 p.m. And then join in for the 5th Quarter Show till 11 p.m. That's Ringgold versus Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe beginning at 7:05 p.m. with a Countdown to Kickoff on Nooga Radio 92.7 FM.
Join Nooga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga Roofing Contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga Roofing Contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Freighter Road, Chattanooga.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need AMCO Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. AMCO Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet Way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nooga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nooga Radio.
Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather. Expect partly cloudy and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Could see a spotty shower or storm. Most of those, though, will stay along the plateau. Highs into the upper 80s to near 90. Tonight, muggy, warm, lows 70 to 72. For Friday and Saturday, lots of sunshine, dry and hot, highs of around 90. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center. Now in Dalton and Ringgold. From War, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
We are brought to you by NewEconomics.com, the website for the man who matters and the woman who matters. Not a huge crowd, of course, that because there are indeed just a few people who matter. There are a lot of people in the middle, a lot of people who just follow, who have conventional opinions, who have no cognitive dissonance at all, and who just go along to avoid cognitive dissonance. They just follow what everybody else says and what everybody else does. They have conventional opinions. So that's what, if you are a conventional opinion person, that is why you have them, because you don't know how to deal with new material. And so when new material comes your way, well, what do? You just discount it. You say, well, that doesn't really, it doesn't really apply. It's just kind of too complicated, and it really couldn't possibly be like that. And I haven't heard that before. And the like. But my name is David Toulis, and the blogger with the biggest pen in Chattanooga, the smartest guy, as they say, with a bow tie, smartest guy with a bow tie. And my report is, you might say, the minority report, and it is that of a classical liberal. Now we have a story that is in the press today, and I have a subscription to the Times Free Press, the print edition, and I have also the online version. But here I'm not catching what Mr. Greason has to say about the scooter issue coming up, and that is to say that scooters are coming. That is to say, electrical scooters that are rented through apps, through smartphone apps. Now you can use an app to rent a scooter when they get here. I believe this is going to be a blessing for Chattanooga, and it tells us the direction of reform. Okay, in other areas, not on personal mode of travel, but in other areas as well. And speaking of phones and apps, make sure that you get the Next Radio app. Now you download that on your phone, and you can hear us. It unlocks your phone's chip so that it can receive the actual signal, the radio signal that we have. And you're not streaming my show, you're not streaming my voice, but you're getting it on the actual radio signal. That the thing that makes my press platform here, Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, very rich, very powerful platform by God's grace. I mean, if we have any of those two things, it's by God's care for me and the owners of this this press platform, Nooga Radio. So it gets the signal on your phone. So it's Next Radio. Download the Next Radio app. Do me a favor. I listen to Marie Mott every day at 11 on TuneIn Radio when I'm coming in on our wonderful blazing yellow Hummer with Sean Hannity's mugshot on the side. I'm tuning into Marie at 11 using TuneIn Radio. But there's Next Radio. That's the thing to make note of. So Tom Greason is talking about the scooter prospect. And there's if you go to our FB page, if things that have not been censored by Facebook are there, We do face censorship by FB, and we're waiting for word about where to go from there. Okay, we've outgrown FB. We're a little tired of it and want to move on. So do help us migrate if you are in that vein. We'd like to move on. But there you'll see a post about the scooter phenomenon, which is another picture of decentralization through applications. And I believe that there are many points of freedom which are coming to us here on account of this of the application, the decentralization of formerly centralized functions. That of course spells the end of the nation state, the end of state tyranny, the end effectively of tyranny by corporations, which are the modern welfare, warfare, surveillance, and bureaucratic administrative state. Those words describe what we have now, and which got there. If you read Martin Van Crevel's book, the Rise and Decline of the State, is one example of a history of this phenomenon. In the late 1600s, even in some of the philosophers who proposed this conception, like the committee, Rousseau and before. They had this conception of this organism which reflects the general will, right? The will of the people, which is a fiction, but it is convenient fiction. And in the 20th century, we had the rise and really the decline of the ideological state, the fascist state, the Marxist state. These have met their decline, and their ideals, in Marxism. The purely materialist economic analysis, which is bogus as could be, just like Charles Darwin's theory of evolution in his book about distinctions among the races and there being worse races and better races, right? Those ideas are in pieces today. No one defends Darwin directly anymore. He has no direct defenders, though there are students and admirers who have, you might say, have the field for now in academia. So the whole question about scooters is this, and I know you want to say, what about these scooters? Well, here's how they work. Okay, you have a smartphone, and you see a scooter just lying on the side of the road or on the side of the street downtown. Wow. Okay, you have your phone, and if you are a subscriber, you simply get the Uber app, like I did I got it yesterday, the Uber app. And if you're a member of the scooter network, you have entered your credit card number, your name and address, and that's it. No SSN required. And you can call me, 800-8949, 800-8949 here in Chattanooga, 800-8949. And so the Uber app lets you push your phone in front of the little sensor, and suddenly it's alive, right? You just charge it, you just, start it, and go where you need to go, and then just lay it aside. Someone else will find it and use it. And the problem is that these are instantaneous. There's no connection. And we have suddenly fluid mobility by individual people who do not have to own cars. And I see a benefit in that because I follow Jane Jacobs in her war with the Titan of Manhattan, Robert Moses. I was on the free market side, Jane Jacobs' side. And she, in her analysis, she rightly critiques, she's the great critic of central planning, right? City planning has its great enemy starting in the late 1950s with Jane Jacobs, whose book is The Decline and the Rise of Great American Cities, 1962, I think it is. I may not be naming it correctly, but you probably already know. You, my listener, the Man Who Matters, probably already know about Jane Jacobs. Well, anyway, she said that cities have grown badly, have grown misshapenly because they are built around the car and not the person, not the human being. And that analysis continues today through the strongtowns.org platform. Chuck Marohn, or Charles Marohn, is the name there. And I give Chuck Marohn a great deal of attention, though I would like to give him more time. I did read most recently his 5-part series on the municipal Ponzi scheme, or as he calls it, the growth Ponzi scheme, and it's rolling collapse. It is collapsing, which means there's municipal disaster ahead Detroit is not unique. Detroit is simply early. And that is the story that he warns us against here in Chattanooga. That is the future in Chattanooga. And John Bridger can't help me to untangle the threat here because it's buried. The data is buried. And one of his colleagues in the city planning offices said the same thing. A woman I've interviewed a couple of times and with whom I have some slight personal connection. She said that getting the data on that point is almost impossible. We don't know how to get it. And so the triggers are buried in the numbers, buried in old contracts and musty filings in the Register of Deeds office, right? That's where you'll find the keys to this crisis. But the scooter phenomenon is another one that humanizes movement, humanizes what you could call transportation. Now, the question is a rented scooter transportation or is it personal travel? And the distinctions that I make in my TAN, my transportation administrative notice that is being rebuffed by officialdom or ignored, it's still being ignored. I'm pretty sure I should be getting back my open records request information in the next few days from Chattanooga and Hamilton County Sheriff's Office to see if it's even been looked at. Phil, just by the way, another aside, Phil Noblett, the new city attorney, I want to tell you, has the most conventional ideas about this whole phenomenon. He is totally out of touch. And he simply needs to do some reading. He simply needs to read Transportation Administrative Notice, which has been in his office since February 20, when Wade Hinton, the city attorney, got his copy from my hand at a city council meeting that Tuesday night when I put the city on notice. And you say, David, what are you talking about? You're a journalist. Aren't you supposed to be objective? Aren't you supposed to be dispassionate and all sides are right? You're just kind of right down the middle of them. Well, maybe. On some things, I'm very dispassionate and very objective. But on other things, when it touches on your rights and prosperity, and I would say Christian liberty issues, right, the gospel, I take sides. I take sides for the Constitution. I take sides for the right use of law. And I take sides for the providence and law of God, right? God's grace and God's law united together in his person and his claims upon all of culture, not just the individual soul, but all of culture, all of the city's life, all of the state's life are bound is bound in God's commands. And either a state or city or county obey God, fear God, or they don't. And if they don't, well, guess what? There's abuse, there's poverty, there's the holding back, there's fear, there's corruption, and there is Avery Gray violence and other sorts of violence, of which we are keen on covering here, because I want my listener to understand that violence against the weak and the poor is a judgment, and people of faith, people of principle, even if they're atheists, need together to unite and fight against it. And they need to do something. They have to do something. They have to do something. Let me change the emphasis. Not just they have to do something, they have to do something here. David Toulis, 800-8949, 800-8949 in Chattanooga. Now, the question about the scooters is this. Okay, is it not dangerous? We find scooters lying around. You come up to a bank downtown on Market Street, there are 15 scooters just lying there against the marble fascia of the building or against the bench. Isn't that just kind of litter? Well, no, it's not litter. Here comes the man ready to get down to the courthouse for a hearing from one of our skyscrapers here in Chattanooga, going over to, let's say, the bankruptcy building on East 11th Street, the federal bankruptcy court. He just hops on a scooter and goes down there. He doesn't have to get into a car. He doesn't have to run. He doesn't have to wait for a bus. This is wonderful. This concept where your credit card is dinged by the internet connection and the use of that scooter by time. He's charged, $1 to get from his high rise there and his oak impaneled office down the elevator to the the portico of the building, and then out there by the bench, there's a scooter ready to go. $1 to get over to the bankruptcy court. Well, that's perfect. $1, even if it's $2. I mean, that's nothing. So you have kind of the Uber. You have a decentralization of function. You don't have to have the car, which centralizes function, and it is subject to regulation in many ways, or could be, and in practice is. And you have movement of people. Now, the public safety question that people such as Carol Burrs will raise on the city council, or Mr. Fletcher, or Mr. Chip Henderson, perhaps Darren Ledford. But what about public safety? Well, we have public safety questions all the time. That doesn't mean you now have to regulate scooters, and that's what I'm concerned about. I think the city government, the city fathers, have made so many mistakes already on trying to regulate the internet, trying to make Chattanooga, the gig city, become Beijing with its Beijing wall around the internet. We've already got a Beijing wall around Airbnb. And I'm thinking of Sam Sylvie, who is an Airbnb operator in Lookout Mountain, Georgia. People like him, hardworking people. He's a photographer, runs a marketing business. And there are people who are enjoying the fruits of that investment, the fruits of that service, short-term vacation rental. And then there are hundreds in Chattanooga which can't do it. They're banned from doing it until perhaps a revision in the plan in the next month or two, maybe in October, when there's a review scheduled of this bastard, unconstitutional short-term vacation rental district in Chattanooga, which Wade Hinton allowed an ordinance to be written for, which has clearly unconstitutional parts. It's clearly unconstitutional. And Wade Hinton, who is now working in the insurance industry, let it go through, or actually drafted it. What we need to have is a free market. And public safety, well, there's always the public safety question. You're at an intersection waiting for the light to say walk, and someone whizzes by on a scooter. You might get hit. Well, people are hit by cars. People are hit by bikes. People are hit by motorcycles. And sometimes they bump into each other, especially if someone's walking about looking at his smartphone screen, right? He bumps into somebody, jostles another person's elbow, perhaps, and that person then mistypes something going out in a text message. Yes, there are concerns, but those are private issues. Those are private matters, and people have to be careful. But just because someone is moving at 15 miles an hour on the edge of a street or maybe down a sidewalk doesn't mean that now we have to say we can't allow battery operated scooters by rental in our city. We have to ban them and then allow them under certain circumstances. That is what we do not need, because that's what the Airbnb ordinance is. The Airbnb ordinance doesn't just create a ban on all and then give permission through licensure. It actually has a standing ban, pretendedly. It's just a pretended ban that you're supposed to believe is true and you live in fear of, right? Pretended ban on half the city and the other half can do Airbnb. Let's not interfere. Let's not intervene in the marketplace. Let this industry come. Let it provide a service. The more people who use these scooters, the more we'll have. The fewer cars we'll have downtown. Is that not a good idea? Will not demand suddenly for parking be reduced? Is that not a good idea? Would that not mean that people who want to do business downtown by car, who sometimes have trouble finding a space, who sometimes don't want to pay $4 to park in a Republic parking center, do not they now have an advantage, right? If there are fewer cars downtown, that means that they can find a meter and put just $1 in, right? Not have to make a commitment of, $4 minimum or what have you. They can just park at a meter with less traffic. You'll have more people downtown and less traffic. So now the question is for Rochelle Albright, the media person for Mayor Andy Burke. Ms. Albright, would you please let my listener know what the mayor's position is on this? Is he for the market? Is he for fewer cars downtown? Is he for untrammeled access to services like this? Or is he going to play along with the city council, who has people who are fuddy-duddies, who are a little bit, who are sort of minders of others' business, who are administrators and bean counters often more than representatives of the peoples and their interests. We know that city council in Chattanooga is in a torpor. It is in a kind of daze. There is a kind of spiritual paralysis around, I think, all the members, even ones who have the greatest spiritual strength. Perhaps that might be Demetrius Coonrod. Even Demetrius Coonrod, the newcomer, seems to be affected by this claim of form over the lifeblood issues of the people, their defense, their integrity. 800-8949, 800-8949. And so we need to have, I'd like to suggest, a liberty. There needs to not be an instinctive draw, an instinctive step toward the ban plus the license, because that's how every licensing scheme operates. We first have to create a ban. It's forbidden to do something. And then the next step is always, however, as a sign of grace, as you kiss our foot, we are going to raise our foot up so that you don't have to strain your back as you bend your lips down to the shoelace and the toe. We're going to lift our foot. And that is the licensing process. We will ban it and now permit it under conditions, under permission, under your request, under your payment of fees, under your filling out the form, under your certifying that you are a lawful business owner, a lawful licensee, a lawful customer of our state services, right? Of our county services. That's what we have to prove. No, let it be free. Let it be by individuals. Leave them alone. Make Chattanooga an open and a free city. That is what David Truitt supposes. Is I suggest that you love your neighbor by local. So you might listen to love your neighbor by local, even though some of your local officials they have the wrong ideas. We just have to work to change them. And maybe you can have a slight role, perhaps, by sending a letter in that process.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Georgia State Parks are doing their part in giving evacuees a place to stay. Campsites at Cloudland Canyon are available at no charge for anyone fleeing the storms. Park rangers say there are no water or electrical hookups at the moment, but you're free to set up camp to escape the storm. Chattanooga police trying to track down an arsonist who set fire to a church. Piney Woods Baptist Church on East 52nd Street was set ablaze early last week. Chattanooga Fire spokesman Bruce Garner tells the press the fire investigator is quite confident that this was arson. The investigation is ongoing. A $5,000 reward is up for info, leading to an arrest. And Georgia Governor Nathan Deal has issued a state of emergency for all 159 counties in Georgia. The governor in a statement said the state is mobilizing all available resources to ensure public safety ahead of Hurricane Florence. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now. Nooga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect partly cloudy and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Could see a spotty shower or storm. Most of those, though, will stay along the plateau. Highs into the upper 80s to near 90. Tonight, muggy, warm, lows 70 to 72. For Friday and Saturday, lots of sunshine, dry and hot, highs of around 90. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center. Now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm Sortine 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Radio 92.7. My ex recently hacked my email and my social media, and it really caused me some problems. I changed all my passwords, which helped, but I'm still getting trolled, maybe even stalked. I know it's him. I just can't prove it.
My business, well, it's been broken into twice already. I've got cameras, but that only helps after the fact. I'd rather prevent it from happening in the first place.
Unity One East is your solution to these and many other security concerns. With private investigation, security services, and backed by decades of real-life experience in military and law enforcement, Unity One East is your instant contact for security, investigation, and consultation to help protect you, your family, and your business. office. No 1-800 number, no red tape, no wait, because Unity One East is local and available 24/7. Reclaim your peace of mind. Call Unity One East, 475-6206, 475-6206.
Call 423-875-3600 if you're looking to expand your professional look of your business. Then consider the vast opportunities that are available when you locate your office with the Raines Group family. Remember, it's location, location, location. And the Raines Group has the location for your professional office. Check out the spaces for lease at Executive Business Park on the Lee Highway. Small or large, we will be able to suit your needs with the Raines Group. Call 423-875-3600 for the business professionals with the Raines Group.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop. Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives. You're going to love the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. The knife shop.
And tell them David Toulis sent you.
Nuga Radio. Are you brain dead? Still voting for pathetic liberals? Take 3 hours of Sean Hannity from 3 to 6.
Nuga Radio.
Then call us in the morning between 9 and 11.
92.7
Nuga Radio. WPLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga.
Serving Chattanooga.
Broadcasting live from the center of the universe, the Tennessee Valley's most listened to news talk station.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by ZipRecruiter.
I'm Jim Shenevy. Its winds have dropped to 105 miles per hour, but Hurricane Florence is still a major threat.
Our greatest concern about this storm remains the same. Storm surge and massive flooding. Both are going to be extreme. Catastrophic effects will be felt outside the center of the storm due to storm surge as high as 9 to 13 feet.
North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, FEMA Administrator Brock Long warning evacuated residents that it may be a while before some areas are ready to take them back.
The power is going to go out. It could go out for a number of days. It could go out for many weeks. It's hard to say at this point. So not only that, but many of you who have evacuated from the Carolina coastlines are going to be displaced for a while, particularly where the areas receive the highest amounts of storm surge.
Becky McDonald evacuated from her home near Myrtle Beach.
There's a few people that this wrote them out forever. And like they say, if it's your turn, it's your turn.
Do you worry about those folks?
Yeah, kind of, but I'm going to try to get back in as quick as we can and check on everything and check on everybody.
Landfall expected tomorrow morning. President Trump has tweeted his way into another controversy, this time over the death toll estimates from Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. CBS's Stephen Portnoy.
In a pair of tweets, the president rejects the work of independent researchers who analyzed deaths in Puerto Rico in the months after Maria struck, and he accused his political opponents of concocting a higher toll. This was done by the Democrats, he said, in order to make me look as bad as possible. The tweets immediately raised questions about the president's focus and frame of mind as Florence neared the Carolina coast.
And today, the day a group of U.S. Catholic leaders, led by Cardinal Daniel DiNardo, met with Pope Francis at the Vatican, all to discuss that clergy abuse scandal and what's being done about it. CBS's Seth Doan.
It was DiNardo who back in August called for this audience with the Pope and has pushed for a full Vatican investigation into the issue of disgraced former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, who resigned this summer following accusations that were deemed credible that he had abused a minor nearly 50 years ago.
GM has issued its second recall notice in as many days. WWJ's Jeff Gilbert.
The recall involving 1 million 2015 full-size pickups and SUVs. Very well-known names: Silverado, Sierra, Yukon, Tahoe, Suburban, and Escalade. They can lose power steering during low-speed turns. While that can increase the risk of a crash, GM has not said whether there have been any real-world problems.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 125 points. This is CBS News.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified candidates for businesses of all sizes. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The following call is real. It took place between an OnStar advisor and a member.
OnStar emergency. Is anyone hurt? I'm stuck in the water. The car's sinking. I will quickly contact 911 and I bring my partner on the line as I do so. Go ahead, Simona. Tell me exactly what happened. It just went over. Oh my God. I can't get out. Stay calm and listen carefully so that I can help you get out. I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
At a moment like this, the last thing you want to be is alone.
Can you open a rear side window all the way? Yes. Okay, do that. Can you turn your radio all the way up so that you can still hear me? Yes. Okay, get out of the car. Get to the top of the vehicle.
A specially trained advisor is ready to help 24 hours a day.
Okay, I'm at the top. Okay, help us en route to your location.
The reassuring sound of a human voice, ready to help. OnStar is available on Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. OnStar. Be safe out there. OnStar acts as a link to emergency services. Visit OnStar.com for details.
A historic find in a cave in South Africa.
It's a small flake of stone with a crisscross of lines in red pigment. And after 7 years of scientific analysis, archaeologists have concluded the marks could only have been made by human hands 73,000 years ago, making this red ochre hashtag the oldest known example of human drawing, predating the famous cave paintings of France by 30,000 years. What scientists may never know is just what these mysterious lines mean. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
What if you could get a bachelor's degree at a cost of no more than $10,000? Guilford Technical Community College in North Carolina has formed a partnership with Fayetteville State University to offer low-cost degrees to students pursuing degrees in business administration, psychology, sociology, criminal justice, and fire and emergency services administration. Both schools belong to the Frontier Set, a program underwritten by Bill and Melinda Gates. Jim Shenevy, CBS News.
Pay off credit card.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
2 schools were placed on lockdown yesterday after reports of shots fired in the woods nearby Brainerd High and Boyd Buchanan. Reports say that the CPD rushed to the scene and filled the parking lot, but they never found a threat. CPD police spokeswoman Eliza Mizal said that the shots fired could have possibly come from duck hunters in nearby woods. A gas leak shut down part of West 12th Street at the Chattanooga Convention Center. Chattanooga gas crews worked quickly to locate and shut off the leaking pipe. They say that the pipe could be underneath West 12th and Carter Streets. With the threat of several inches of rain coming in from Hurricane Florence, the Tennessee Valley Authority decided to preemptively lower the water level at all lakes and tributaries under TVA control in Tennessee. If you have a boat, you may want to check and make sure it won't be run aground. Georgia State Parks have opened up their gates for evacuees. They can stay for free at Cloudland Canyon. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News now.
It's that partly cloudy and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Could see a spotty shower or storm. Most of those, though, will stay along the plateau. Highs into the upper 80s to near 90. Tonight, muggy, warm, low 70 to 72. For Friday and Saturday, lots of sunshine, dry and hot, highs of around 90. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center. Now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
You hear that? That's the sound of power. The call of the open road. That is the newly designed 2019 Indian Chieftain Limited. Yeah, Indian. More than a bike, it's an experience and an American icon. And the place to find it, Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga, along with their entire new 2019 line. Ready to answer that call? Go to Indian Motorcycle of Chattanooga. Just look for the sign on 153 and Nicola. Indian Motorcycle, the true American original.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
If you want to discover the real hope for your life through inspirational music, relevant messages, and testimonies from others who have already found hope, then we encourage you to visit the second annual My Hope Conference, October 7th through 9th at Hickson First Baptist Church. Free admission and childcare is provided for kids up to pre-K, while those in kindergarten through 5th grade will attend the Kids Hope Rally. For more info, visit myhopeconference.com or call Hickson First Baptist Church at 423-877-2467.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I just love the whole idea of being the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, even though sometimes it is crooked. I will confess that, and sometimes the tie is not really the best match because I get out of the house without Jeanette giving approval, my wife Jeanette, and so I'm not quite up to the high standards of a media professional. But as Andy Burke says, no matter what he tells you, don't believe him. He is not a member of the media, and he's right. That is because I'm a member of the press, which enjoys constitutional protections. Everything I do is protected by the Tennessee Constitution in its free press provisions in a free state for, guess what? People just like you. They're called the free people in more than one reference in the Constitution to the free people of Tennessee. Now, you can be free to be a racist, and I want you to think about something, you, my listener. Especially if you are racist, whether you're a black racist, always thinking in terms of race, or a white racist, always looking down upon blacks and thinking blacks are somehow always, shiftless and crooked. I mean, a lot of people just have that thought process. It's cultural in the South, and black men are never responsible. They always have illegitimate children. They're money grubbing. They're probably in the drug trade. They're shiftless, worthless, and want to get on welfare. And the younger ones all have 9mm in baggy pants. That's kind of the caricature. But to have a caricature like that, and to live out that ideal. Okay, it's kind of a silly ideal to have. To think in terms of melanin. Skin tone, melanin content of skin as a way of evaluating people has its problems. And if you are a racist, either one way, one direction, or the other, you're going to be paying what an economist would call a racist premium. Now, there's a story that ZeroHedge.com by Tyler Durden I want to mention just briefly that tells about that. It's two entrepreneurs at the beginning of the 20th century in 1900, and a story that came out in August of 1900 in the New York Times. And the headline is "Negro Finds Way to Wealth," and it tells about two men. One is J. Dallas Bowser, and the other one is Philip Payton, who exploited the racist thinking of white people in the real estate sector. And what they did, and they also, a man who did something similar to them is the founder of Harlem, the father of Harlem. His name is Philip Payton. That's Philip Payton Jr. And his story not told on NBC or MSNBC or in your school books. So what they did was realized that when a black family moved into an apartment complex or bought a house, there was shrieks of resentment and reaction among the white neighbors who thought, well, we can't have a diverse neighborhood. People who are for zoning, right? These racists were for zoning to keep out the blacks. And so what happened would be that Bowser, who was a teacher and a poet, and he was also the publisher of a newspaper, would buy homes next to white people in wealthy neighborhoods. And then he planned to move in, right? So what happens? Well, people are so upset for racist tendencies that they said, look, we'll buy the house from you. We'll buy the house from you. So if he paid let's say $4,000 for a house. They say, look, we'll buy it from you for $8,000. Okay. So we can then resell it to some white family. Well, think about the market potential of a scheme like that. You buy a house and for $4,000 and are told, well, hey, of course, this is 1900 when you had real money circulating. Probably the price was more like $2,000. But let's just say it was $4,000. You bought it for $4,000, and your white neighbors who hate you and think you're just bad will buy it from you for $8,000. Is that not something you could do in different parts of town? Is that not something you could do as a little business? Is that not a business taking advantage of the racial hatred, the racial disregard of whites against blacks? Well, that's what happened. And they made a lot of money doing this. This is according to Tyler Durden, and making note of a Mises Institute essay by Andrew Moran, who is a correspondent for LibertyNation.com, and has a book out called "The War on Cash." So if Peyton did this, it says after an apartment building located on an all-white Harlem block rented to a black tenant, a lot of white people fled the neighborhood. Okay, this is how white people are fleeing, right? Oh wow, what happens to prices when people flee? Right, they move out, they sell at a loss, right, or they leave their places empty, right? If you have these distasteful people of color, they were called Negroes at the time, or worse words than that. You have empty buildings. Well, hey, suddenly you have a discount. Can you take advantage, my listener, of a discount? Well, you can. And so Philip Peyton did. There were vacancies, so Peyton and investors would buy these buildings on 99th Street at a discount and rent to blacks. And so people like Billie Holiday and Robert Earl Jones would be people who would live there in Harlem. Peyton ultimately believed that property owners who maintain racial covenants would pay the racist premium in a competitive real estate market. He argued that even the most bigoted of landlords would realize that profit is really far more important than your prejudice. And he said this. This is a quote from the father of Harlem, okay? Race prejudice is a luxury. And the number, by the way, do call me, 800-8949, 800-894-9. And just before I forget, make sure that you tune in to the Gridiron Gang sports show at 7 tonight. And our sports crew, Nick LaFew and Keon Rose, are at Starbucks at 10 North. That's Starbucks at 10 North. On the North Shore with their show live. You can drink a coffee. You can meet them, listen in if you like. Coaches come by, stars on the field come by. It's all about high school football. The Gridiron Gang show live from Starbucks. That's live from Starbucks every Thursday night, all season long. Vision Hospitality, the folks behind this nice event. And also just want to make sure that on Saturday, the day after, right, that you tune into We've Got You Covered Radio. That's at 10 o'clock, and it's with Scott Schrader and a legion of experts all about home ownership, home repair, home investing, home buying, home selling, and it's We've Got You Covered Radio at 10 on Saturday. My name is David Toulis, and we're here in Chattanooga. I appreciate your tuning in. Race prejudice is a luxury. And like all other luxuries, can be made very expensive in New York City. Quoting here Philip Peyton, the father of Harlem. And he says that the fight that I am making has got to be made sooner or later. And I see no better time than now. A respectable, law-abiding Negro will find conditions so changed that he will be able to rent wherever his means will permit him to live. And that's what. And the point is, I think that the free market and free market activities where no one can have control over other people's property. In other words, an economy drained of the licensing and permitting and covenanting schemes that are so current in our executive state today. If we have an economy that does not have these forced up and down relationships, where no one has a gain over somebody else by law or by permit or by some kind of contractual arrangement in commerce, you're going to have a reduction in racism. Why? Because people they realize, look, if I'm a racist, it's going to cost me. My expenses are going to be more. I won't have customers, right? If I'm just marketing to white people, and I just want white people to come to my store or buy my cars or eat my sandwiches, well, then I'm losing business. I want black people in my restaurant. I want Asian people in my restaurant. I want people who are staying here in Chattanooga from Saudi Arabia, from Australia, from Belgium to be in my restaurant. I don't care what color they are. Let them be rising Hispanic families in the entrepreneurial world in Chattanooga, spending a Saturday evening's dinner with 4 children. Wow, that's pretty good. In my restaurant. I don't have nothing against them. I want their business. I want to serve them. So you see the whole idea of the marketplace. I want to serve them brings a racist person to think about a person of another race in the terms of that person has a need. I have a service. I have a great cook. I've got a great waitress. I've got a great menu. And I'm going to serve that person my best, my very, very best service at the lowest price. And I want that person to come back. So, yes, that person may be of a different color than me, and I may have strong feelings about things from the past. But, I want business. I want to make a sale. I want to serve. The marketplace is a Christian concept. And, of course, capitalism is based on the Christian ethic that is lived out in the details in the life of our Lord Jesus. How much time do I have? Okay. I'm changing gears here. I want you to know that I'm concerned for you, my listener. And Marc Gravitt is the new Register of Deeds in Hamilton County. And yesterday, he and I had a conversation, and and you may not hear everything just perfectly. So turn your radio up when I'm quoting him. I had my audio running on my phone, and he knew that. And so we had a conversation about my demand, effectively a demand, to have officials get a tan in Chattanooga. I want all the officials who are sort of wan and pale looking to get a tan. Tan is transportation administrative notice, which is being refused with the permission of Reuben Taylor, the county attorney. And the
problem is that
here I am explaining what I'm trying to do.
I'm recording. Just the audio.
Okay.
He's reluctant,
Mark,
but that's okay.
I'm representing my listener, and this notice is about redress of grievances. Now, what I've done is just read the affidavit. I've gone to 6 municipal jurisdictions in the county, and I said, here's what the scope of the statute is in Title 55, and you're being notified of the limits of that authority. Starting with Chattanooga on February 20th. Next was the county through the chief enforcer, the chief law enforcement officer, Jim Hammond.
You're hearing from an interview that I had with the new county Register of Deeds, Marc Gravitt.
This is a public record. There are unrebutted acknowledgments of receipt.
This is an
Can't
affidavit stating that you had conversations and that you gave documents to certain individuals.
Yes.
Why does that need to be recorded?
Because of neglect of the statute. You have here widespread neglect is the benign term, but it's widespread rejection of the limits of the scope of the statute. In a nutshell, Mark, Title 55, Tennessee Code, just going up the numbers here, has an enforcement authority that's this wide, but it's being enforced as if it were a football field wide, or maybe from here to where they're painting on.
When I'm mentioning the numbers going up, I'm holding up Title 8 of the Tennessee Code annotated. I'm referring to Title 55. And the other reference is to the fact that Marc Gravitt's office is in the middle being painted, and there was a work crew stumbling about around us.
The far wall. That's the scope of activity. This is illegal. It damages the people of our county. And so I've done the research, prepared by David Toulis, and I didn't have that last time.
Well, if you're of that opinion, and I'm no attorney and I'm not giving legal advice, but can you explain to me why wanting to record these makes it any different? Why not just file suit?
Well, in notice,
recording these is not going to do anything.
Well,
except
why does anybody record anything at all? Recording anything, whether a deed or a will or a bequeathal, that doesn't do anything either. But
proof of ownership or so forth.
Well, here
provides that.
Well, here the notice, Mark, provides proof of ownership of the roads. The people own the roads, and they have the free use of them. It's called a public right-of-way for a reason. But through machinations, through complicity among others, through a combination, there are officials and entities and organizations, including in our county, who reject the ownership of the roads by the people and say, no, we own the roads and we enforce a state claim through Title 55 on the roads.
Now, this is David Toulis, and I'm talking with a local official about you and your rights. Okay, I want you to know that, especially if you're someone who's on the road without a driver's license, or you're on the road on revoked or suspended, but you have to be there because you have to make a living, you have to pay for your bread, you have to pay your light bill and your rent, and you have to be on the road, and you're doing it so-called illegally. I'm here defending your interests. I want you to know that, and I'm doing it before councils and kings.
And no, sir, the roads belong to the people, and you can use them freely, except, and the notice makes this very clear, except if you're involved in transportation, which is the regulable use of the road for profit and gain through a corporation where the place of business principally is the road itself. And there you've got truckers, cabbies, Uber operators, hospital ambulance providers, dump truck operators, etc.
Okay, I get all that.
Those are
why are you trying to do this? I get who
because
uses
with
the
notice,
roads,
with notice. Okay, well look, no one has told these people what the law says. No one has told Sheriff Hammond what the scope of the law is.
He hasn't read it in years.
Okay.
City Council doesn't know the scope of the statute either.
No one has read the law.
And that's why I'm providing a public service as a member of the press. I'm here as a member of the press, and I publish. Okay, I publish all the time, and some publishing is very narrow, right? I broadcast on my show at 1 o'clock, and I narrowcast this information in a very narrow audience, very small audience.
So what are they doing, or what are they not doing that you're claiming?
They are enforcing Title 55,
which is
the transportation statute, upon people who are not involved in transportation.
How?
Traffic stops.
If they're not involved in transportation, they're got to be driving.
What if they're not driving, but they're still on the road?
It's a traffic stop.
Well, Mark, the problem is that even if there are private users, let's say Mexicans and Guatemalans here in Hamilton County, probably half don't have driver's licenses. What are they doing on the road?
Okay.
They're on the road legally under their right to travel. It's a property right.
But if they are driving, then they are not on the road legally.
They're not driving, they're traveling.
Well,
that's the distinction that's made in this document. Okay. And that's why it has to be recorded, because it's going to be used in court.
Okay. Like I said, I'm no attorney, but here's what I'm going to do. Okay?
Yes.
I'm going to refer you to the city attorney.
He means the county attorney.
The city attorney says, Mark, you need to record this. I will record it.
Can you give me a letter about that? If I'm the one making that, if I'm the one conveying that message, then I ask you please to give me a letter making that request.
I will send you an email. What is your email? I'll send it right now with you sitting here.
Okay. Here's my card.
Well, I'll stop it right there. But Marc Gravitt is very respectful, very efficient, and he is new in office. He's been in office for a week and 2 days. He's a very qualified and efficient man, and a good man, and wants to do the best by his office. And he's obtaining advice from Reuben Taylor, the county attorney. Now, Reuben Taylor, much more summarily perhaps than I would have liked, rejects getting a tan. He rejects the tan for these very pale officials who are not getting enough sunlight and who look a little sickly. They look sickly because they are doing something that's wrong, right? If you're a child doing something wrong and you know it's wrong, and suddenly your mother pops into the room and you suddenly put your hands, in a proper place. Well, you look a little pale. Well, that's how they all look. They all look kind of guilty, and they're pale. And they're desperately in need of some sunlight. Now, the sunlight is the law itself, and we have a very good law in Tennessee. Title 55 is a good law. It's a fair, liberal law. It's constitutional. It does not. I see nothing unconstitutional about any of the provisions of it, of the hundreds of pages of it that I've read. And however, it's being improperly used. So what we have here is a wonderful story about this process. And I'm telling on behalf of you, my listener, even if you have a license, it doesn't matter. I represent you, my listener, and the reader at Nuganomics.com, our chief sponsor. 800-8949, 800-8949 is our number, the studio line. Ask me a question. Let's change the subject. Let's, as Marie Mott says, at 11 every weekday, let's chop it up. Let's chop it up. Reuben Taylor says, these documents have no legal effect, he says, and your expressed desire to have them recorded in order to put others, quote, on notice, unquote, is not a permitted reason for recording same and allowing them to occupy space within the public record of Hamilton County. I'm laughing, and we'll just have to see what becomes of that, because guess what? Do you think I just let things go? Do you think I just let things sit there and not get my rights on your behalf? Exercise, well, by God's grace, I can exercise my rights today and tomorrow and encourage other people to exercise theirs, such as Noah McLemore, and others. David Toulis, the number is 800-8949, brought to you by Nuganomics.com. Make sure you tune in to the
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Georgia State Parks are doing their part in giving evacuees a place to stay. Campsites at Cloudland Canyon are available at no charge for anyone fleeing the storms. Park rangers say there are no water or electrical hookups at the moment, but you're free to set up camp to escape the storm. Chattanooga police trying to track down an arsonist who set fire to a church. Piney Woods Baptist Church on East 52nd Street was set ablaze early last week. Chattanooga Fire spokesman Bruce Garner tells the press the fire investigator is quite confident that this was arson. The investigation is ongoing. A $5,000 reward is up for info, leading to an arrest. And Georgia Governor Nathan Deal has issued a state of emergency for all 159 counties in Georgia. The governor in a statement said the state is mobilizing all available resources to ensure public safety ahead of Hurricane Florence. Val St. John for Nuga Radio News Talk 92.7 Action News Now.
Let's face it, Old Faithful isn't as faithful as it used to be. Constant repairs are a hassle and can rack up quick in money and time. Landers McLarty Ford can fix that. Right now, you can get a 2016 Ford Focus, 34,000 miles, only $11,491. A 2017 Chevy Spark with only 17,000 miles for less than $12,000. A 2015 Volkswagen Jetta with less than 21,000 miles for $11,991. Yeah, browse their entire inventory of new and new-to-you cars, trucks, and SUVs online at Landers McCarty Ford of FortPayne.com. Landers McLarty Ford of Fort Payne. If you can't find your next perfect ride, they'll go find it for you. Big city selection, small town prices, friendly service, and top dollar for your trade. The savings are waiting and only a short drive away, so what are you waiting for? Get started with your personalized shopping today at Landers McLarty Ford of FortPayne.com.
Join Keon Rose and Nick LaFew this Friday night with the Amco Transmission and Total Car Care High School Football Game of the Week. This Friday night's the Battle of the Battlefield Parkway between Ringgold and Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. But join me, Sam Jordan, for the 101 Personal Training Countdown to Kickoff beginning at 7:05 p.m. And then join in for the 5th quarter show till 11 p.m. That's Ringgold versus Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe beginning at 7:05 p.m. with a Countdown to Kickoff on Nuga Radio 92.7 FM.
Join Nuga Radio and the Gridiron Gang live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks at 10 North on the North Shore. We're talking all things high school football. There's a specialty brew or refresher weekly inspired by the game of the week. Sweet treats, extended hours all season long, and we're pet friendly. Portions of all proceeds support local schools and educational scholarships as well as after-school programs. It's football time in Tennessee. Join us every Thursday live from 7 to 9 at Starbucks, 10 North, your North Shore neighborhood living room.
Your home is a constant work in progress. Repaint the walls? Yeah, easy enough. Leaky faucet? There's a video for that. But roof repair? You might want some help. That's where Chattanooga roofing contractors come in. They have 3 generations of roofing excellence you can count on. Leave the ladder in the garage. Go to chatroofing.com. That's chatroofing.com for Chattanooga roofing contractors, a roofing company you can trust.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Get 8.1% return on your money. Rick Davis can turn your cash into real money. Gold and silver bullion. American Eagle Gold. The banks give you a measly 1.9%. At Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, you'll get 8.1% return on your money. 8.1% return on your money. Wow! Whether you're buying an ounce or 100 ounces, Rick guarantees it in writing. 8.1% Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Brainerd Road, Chattanooga.
Man, you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah, I worked with my dad on his truck all the time. Just one more bolt to go.
Yeah, wrong bolt. Today's truck ain't your daddy's truck. For repairs on today's vehicles, you need Amco Transmission and Total Car Care of Chattanooga on Lee Highway. Stay on the road, not in the garage. Amco Transmission on Lee Highway. Get it done the right way. The Thompson Pet way. Yeah, I just put that anywhere.
Join We've Got You Covered with Scott Schrader every Saturday from 10 to 11 on Nuga Radio. From finance to fixtures, we discuss everything you need to know about buying or owning a home, the pitfalls, the perks, and everything in between. Saturday mornings, 10 to 11, right here on Nuga Radio.
Nuga Radio, Chattanooga weather.
Expect partly cloudy and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Could see a spotty shower or storm. Most of those, though, will stay along the plateau. Highs into the upper 80s to near 90. Tonight, muggy, warm, lows 70 to 72. For Friday and Saturday, lots of sunshine, dry and hot, highs of around 90. Control your diabetes with the help of Hamilton Diabetes and Endocrinology Center. Now in Dalton and Ringgold. For more, their number 706-278-1622. And I'm SOAR Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
Nuga Radio 92.7.
Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Toulis.
I'm troubled because there are so many people who think the distinction over which we should be spending our time fighting is between left and right, that it is between conservative and liberals, that it is between, let's say, progressives and Christians. Well, in some respects, maybe there are truths in those distinctions, conservatives and liberals, the fourth one. There's some truth there as well. But I'd like to suggest there's a better paradigm, a better framework in which to view the reforms we need to make and the analysis of the problem that we face here in Chattanooga. And the analysis comes from, let's say, if I can make a picture of it, the person of Jim Hammond. Okay, Jim Hammond is the sheriff. He represents the court. He serves the court. As we have reported, when he took his oath 2 Tuesdays ago, did not take an oath to uphold and support the Constitution. Why not? Well, his office precedes the Constitution. And so his job is, you might say, more fundamental than the Constitution. And that is the idea of a judiciary. That is what Sheriff Hammond does. He is a defender of the judge and the jail holding people before trial. And he is the peacekeeper. He is not charged with upholding the Constitution. That's not his job. His job is to protect the peace and to protect the rights of the people in his fief, in his reef, his shire. Okay, he is the reef of the shire. The shire is the county. Again, this precedes the idea of a constitution. It is a common law concept that we find from Great Britain in the 1200s, the 1300s, back way before constitutions. And that's why the Sheriff Hammond doesn't vote or swear to uphold or support the Constitution. And yet we have a high regard for that office. And I would suggest we have even a higher regard than we do now on account of its origins. And let me get to the point. The picture of the paradigm of the framework that I want to get to in our efforts to bring about new prosperity and new freedom and new opportunity in Chattanooga and Hamilton County
in our state, is the sheriff. But the idea is that he defends the court. The court, the judiciary, is an ancient concept. And it precedes the concept of the modern revolutionaries. We could say that began perhaps with a very bitter and angry man named Rousseau, a French theoretician who posited the noble savage idea and the noble collective idea as well. The committee that oversees all, that somehow embodies the will, the collective will of the people in their interest. These were, of course, rationalist ideas from the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a revolution against Christianity, a revolution against the Reformation, which took place in the 1500s and the 1600s. And so, John Locke, who had great influence on American founding fathers, he was an heir, if you will, of rationalism, which sucked God out of public affairs. Ultimately, that's what's happened today. God has been sucked out from all kinds of things, and he's been highly invested, though, by the church and church people in the individual soul and the life of the individual Christian. So there's an individualization of Christianity and a de-emphasis, a de-politicization, a de-legalization of Christianity, a disestablishment of the Ten Commandments and the whole concept of limited government and grace and the private sector. Right? Those ideas have been sort of squeezed out of public rhetoric and public policy. And the paradigm is not between left and right. It is not between conservatives and liberals. Okay, those are not adequate. They are not adequate. And the people who have highlighted this problem and provide the best analysis are Christians, and they're called Christian Reconstructionists. Okay, they believe in Christian Reconstruction. Among the most notable ones writing now are Gary North, who's in his 80s, and younger heirs of that respect for God's law, such as Bojidar Marinov, who runs Reconstructionist Radio. We've had that here, and I'm thinking maybe of having a Sunday morning show that would feature some of Marinov's work. Joel McDermott is involved also in Alpharetta, Atlanta area. And the analysis is that we have a problem, a struggle in mankind over the authority of God. And the authority of God is expressed by the commandments, right? The public policy, if you will, of God expressed in the commandments is that the state is limited, okay, number one, and it is limited to what? Number two, it is judicial in its ethic and its scope of operation. It is not executive, it is not legislative. Those ideas of executive branches and legislative branches came from the Enlightenment, and they came from what we call conservative philosophers, such as Montesquieu, who is a French conservative, who had the idea of limiting power. We have our magnanimous, absorbative, absolutist modern state, but it can only go so far. Well, how's that? Well, it has three parts. It has the legislative branch, let's say our Congress, our city council, let's say. It has an executive branch, that would be the president, or that would be Mayor Burke here in Chattanooga. And then it has a judicial function, that would be Sherry Patey in Chattanooga City Court. It would be the Supreme Court, or let's say the U.S. District Court, or the criminal court here in the county. In that jurisdiction, Judge Steelman, for example, or Tom Greenholz, for example. Okay, so that is the modern conception, that where you have a lawmaking body. Well, why do we need more laws? The Christian should be asking, when we have God's law that encompasses all of reality and deals with every potential difficulty, every potential conflict or transgression, is rightly analyzed either directly or by inference in the scriptures, right? So why are Christian people so excited about our constitutional form of government, I wonder, when it was positing an alternative ethic, an alternative framework for the operation of that single thing of great interest, and that is the sword, the civil sword, right? You got the ministry of grace in the church and the family, but to account for the fall, every society, every city, every county, every government, every state, every nation has to have the sword to oppress the wicked, right? That is to say, to judge the rapist and the murderer and the inflationist and the kidnapper with death, and to arrange for compensation for victims. That's what the judicial function is. And so the biblical concept of justice is judicial. There is no legislative branch. There is no executive branch ordering everybody about. But because we have rejected the biblical ethic of a judicial function for the magistracy, and we have rather a magistrate that writes laws, enforces laws, translates laws in the judicial branch, and executes laws through the executive branch, we have the modern total state, right? The modern paper money, inflationary, surveillance, warfare, bureaucratic, administrative welfare state. And because of that, we're all the better for it, right? The conception that most people have, especially if they're Republicans, and probably even more especially if they're Democrats and party activist types, is that we must use power. We must have politics. We must have power. Things cannot be accomplished apart from threat, coercion, and duress. And I want to talk about the Noah McLemore story. Now, you can read that story at Nuganomics.com, our chief sponsor here at, again, Nuganomics.com. That's the website for the Man Who Matters, of which I'm the mild-mannered editor, the blogger, right, the blogger with the biggest pen, David Toulis. And just, by the way, there's an event coming up on the 14th, the Trail of Tears Memorial Pre-Ride Rally at Crockett Power Sports and Indian Motorcycles. I just want you to know that that's just ahead, September on the 14th. We'll be there, 92.7 FM, broadcasting live, beginning at 4 until 7. You'll find vendors there, drinks and food, music, gathering with your tribe. The silver anniversary of the great historical event, bikers from across the country gather with the Trail of Tears Memorial Association and its members, and they hold this ride. And so there's a pre-ride rally at 4 p.m. on the 14th at Crockett Power Sports and Indy Motorcycles of Chattanooga with Nuga Radio. And make sure tomorrow that you tune into the great show that we have that is called We've Got You Covered Radio. That's with Scott Schrader. Now, the idea of the executive state is highly in evidence in the Noah McLemore pat down and arrest. This occurred August the 3rd, and the story you can read. You can see an interview with Noah on Nuganomics.com and also on our Facebook page. We are getting things through the censor, but we are on the censor's platform, and we are very cautious about it. Not very happy about having things disapproved. Do you know how many disapproved stories I've written? Just ask yourself, do you think David Toulis writes stories that are disapproved by Facebook? You know, I'm there, I'm shaking my head. I'm saying, what can you, my listener, do to help me through this quagmire? Because I want another reader for every story that I write. You might read it, but I want one more reader. And I'm going to have to rely on you to help get the word out about my work here. David Toulis, the blogger with the biggest pen, the smartest guy, it is alleged. It is alleged with some evidence trailing after that is true. Now, Noah McLemore runs a store on Highway 58. It is at 4621 Highway 58, and it's been open for a couple of years, and he is the owner. And we're telling about a pat down, a Terry pat down under the Terry opinion in the High Court that allows officers to pat down a subject in concern for personal safety. Does the subject have a gun or a knife on his person? So the pat down is not a search for incriminating evidence. It is a safety search. So, all right. So the High Court keeps granting cops these special protections. They're already an elite. They're already legally are an elite. Socially, they are quite apart from other families. And they are better than us, and they should know that in a judicial ethical construction of government, they are powerless to act without a judicial warrant, and that's it. They do not have authority to go on hunches. They do not have authority to stop people, arrest people, unless there is a murder in progress, an exigent circumstance, as it might be called. They do not have authority to stop anybody, to question anybody. And yet, because we have executive government, because we have the user of the sword that God ordains, right, in Romans 13. We have that kind of government. We have not a Romans 13 government. We have a Revelation 13 government. And just read Revelation 13. I know you don't go to church, perhaps, but read that chapter, and it will make your neck hairs bristle. Mr. McLemore is approached by this officer who creeps up the side of the front of that building, kind of a rundown building. It's got some empties in it. She has her gun drawn. She has her weapon drawn on this man who's black, wearing a wife beater t-shirt and smoking a cigarette in the front door of his building. And does the Chamber of Commerce approve of this sort of approach of prospective members? Because I'm confident that Mr. McLemore is not a prospective member, but he is he's not a member, but he is a prospective member in the small business class, you might say, in that organization. She says to him, do me a favor and put your hands up on the glass. So he's supposed to do the spread eagle for her. For what? He says. Sorry? For what? So I can just pat you down, she says. This is my business, he says. I just explained it to you that this is my business. You won't let me go in there. My business license is right there on the wall. And here is Noah McLemore. Noah, tell my listener what happened.
Yes, I came outside my store, and I noticed I seen an officer like out of my peripheral vision, and she was clutching on her weapon. And she kind of scared me, like it scared me. And I was asked to her something wrong, and she wasn't trying to hear nothing I was saying. She was just like, put your hands up. I'm like, for what? I said, this is my place of business. And I kept on telling her that. She kept on asking for my ID. I said, yeah, I got it. I said, my ID and my business are clearly placed on the wall where it's supposed to be. She wasn't trying to hear none of that. She just was trying to search me and telling me to step to her car, and I kept on asking her for what. She never gave me no explanation why she was here. She never gave me no explanation why she wanted to pat me down. She just never gave me nothing, even after she pat me down. And then I told her she went in my store without my permission. I said, why are you going in there? And she just walked in there like without even my permission. And I filmed it. I filmed her going in my store. Like, I mean, I don't know if she was trying to plant something on me or what. Like, I don't know what intention she had. And then not only that, like 4 other officers pulled up and like surrounded the parking lot. And I'm looking like, wow, like what is going on? And the whole time, then now officer tell me why they was here, what was going on. They never apologized.
And one car came up with siren roaring for a man smoking a cigarette who happens to be black in front of a shoe store.
They never said nothing to me. To this day, I still don't know why they was here.
And why is Noah McLemore not in my studio? Because he wept yesterday when I forced him by my pressing questions to reconsider what happened. Because I'm demanding of him to know what happened. I'm asking him, I want to know what happened to you. You can't not tell me the details. So that is what I do. I try to help people. I try to encourage people. And I said, Noah, come on my show today. Why is he not here? He said, well, I was coming to your studio and I just got scared. He had tears in his face yesterday when I asked him to recall this. He choked up in an interview. And you can see him do it. He's holding a plastic coffee cup in one hand, but he is choked up over what happened in this interrogation and this pat down, standing from his business. Here is there's a transcript that exists of this encounter with the female officer whose name I don't yet have, but who should be fired. Perhaps she should be fired, or we, the listener, need to understand that this is policy. Okay, this is policy. No, she's not good. She's a good police officer. She does what she's supposed to do. She asks the right questions. And here she says at the end of the encounter that's recorded on Facebook. She says, so here's the deal. Get a call that they believe people are in the building that are not supposed to be there. Okay, that was the call that we got. Is that true? So I come here to check it out, all right? I don't know who you are. I don't know if you own that business. I don't know if you do or don't. And he says, my business license is displayed on the wall, ma'am, where it's supposed to be. I just saw that. I did not know that to begin with. And he says, you never let me prove myself. And she says, when I ask you for your ID, you are being very hostile toward me. You know, I can't use certain words on the radio because we are a pro-family station, but that smells very badly, like someone needs to flush, toward me about giving me any information about why I was talking to you and everything else. And then he says, because everyone knows that police have been harassing me for the past couple of months. 4 police cars, and one was parked in front of this man's business. Why is this? Is the Chamber of Commerce concerned about this? Are you, my listener, concerned about this? There is in this whole oppressive story something that we need to learn. And that is that we need to understand the problem in the largest sense. And that is that we have not what you might say God ordains for the civil magistrate, judicial government. We have executive government. That's what executive government is all about. And police are the best picture of that form of government. It is an Enlightenment concept. It is a militarist, absolutist concept. In that government, there is no liberty. There simply is no liberty and no freedom. And so you can understand why, if we have everyone committed to executive government, such as Marc Gravitt and Reuben Taylor, the Register and the county attorney respectively, that there is resistance to any effort to reduce police power. And that's what my argument is. We have to reduce police power, not by taking it away, but simply by making officials obey what's there, okay? Obey the law that's written. That would be the Tennessee Code, Title 55. That would be the Tennessee Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The officer has no power to act unless there is a sworn warrant. Rather than come with gun drawn, the officer should have pulled up and said, hey, how's business? Hey, how are these shoes selling? Are they well made? She could say perhaps, well, this place has been empty for a while. I'm glad you're trying it out here. So then Noah McLemore would have had a conversation with her about why he was closed for a while. Now he's back open at Footworks on Highway 58. Be sure to go by there and support this man in this business, okay? Have your teenage son buy some shoes from Noah McLemore. That's why he's on my show. Though not in person, he was so scared about talking about his ordeal that though he was en route coming here, suddenly said, I can't go on the air. I just can't. He's afraid. That is an abuse of the free spirit of capitalism and the free market. That is something you sustain if you remain silent. David Tulip.
3, 2, 1. Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Georgia State Parks are doing their part in giving evacuees a place to stay. Campsites at Cloudland Canyon are available at no charge for anyone fleeing the storms. Park rangers say there are no water or electrical hookups at the moment, but you're free to set up camp to escape the storm. Chattanooga police trying to track down an arsonist who set fire to a church. Piney Woods Baptist Church on East 52nd Street was set ablaze early last week. Chattanooga Fire spokesman Bruce Garner tells the press the fire investigator is quite confident that this was arson. The investigation is ongoing. A $5,000 reward is up for info, leading to an arrest. And Georgia Governor Nathan Deal has issued a state of emergency for all 159 counties in Georgia. The governor in a statement said the state is mobilizing all available resources to ensure public safety ahead of Hurricane Florence. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
Expect partly cloudy and hot weather out there for your afternoon. Could see a spotty shower or storm. Most of those, though, will stay along the plateau. High